So Michelle, what are we doing today?
We are driving up to Olympia to go to the Evergreen State College to meet with Eric Peterson. He works in the admissions office. We're going to talk to him about establishing a transfer agreement partnership so that students who finish the Wayfinding program can transfer up to Evergreen and continue their education there if they'd like to. But in particular, this trip was prompted because one of our current cohort 1 students, Alden, who's going to be finishing Wayfinding in July, is interested in continuing to study at Evergreen and do some environmental science and biology courses there. So we're specifically going to go see if we can help Alden make this transfer.
This is what it looks like when Wayfinding Academy President and Founder Michelle Jones triages.
I'm getting phone calls while I'm trying to email people, you know.
So we pulled over for a quick pit stop on our way, and I thought this might be a good opportunity to share what these trips have looked like in the past.
Yeah, this is my third one of these kinds of trips. In the past I went to Prescott College in Arizona, and I've also gone out to the East Coast where I met with 4 colleges over there. And it's an interesting challenge because, so Wayfinding is brand new. We're a non-traditional model of higher education. There are other non-traditional models of higher education that exist. So I've been trying to talk to those colleges and universities first to see if there's good partnership opportunities there. They seem like the easiest people to start the conversations with. They tend to have less bureaucracy. They tend to have value for starting things from scratch that are a bit non-traditional, that are trying to change the way we do higher education. So far they've gone pretty well. All of them have been really open and receptive and really good. They're big fans of what Wayfinding is doing and think it's highly needed in the realm of higher education. And almost all of them have said yes to setting up a transfer agreement relationship, which basically just means that when a student completes Wayfinding and wants to go on to a 4-year program, which not all of our students want to do, but some do, and some will in the future, that they are going to make that easier for those students to do. So they're going to set some stuff up in place so that students can transfer in with 1.5, 2 years worth of credits already, and then kind of pick up where they left off. So far it's been going pretty well. Really, really, really high quality conversations with like other college presidents and registrars and deans of admission. So it goes pretty well. This one today though is going to be interesting because Evergreen is well regarded as one of the longest standing, most effective alternative models of higher education that we have, and it's a state college, so Washington State college system, which means that it comes with all the bureaucracy. So I'll be really interested to see how they handle this request, because it requires some unique customization, and often I find that the bureaucracies, when I try to talk to them, they just don't even know how to start that conversation. So this will be a really interesting to see where we end up at the end of this, I don't know, mystery.
Michelle, are you at all nervous about today's conversation and exploration of Evergreen State College?
I always get a little bit nervous with big things, yes. I guess this is a medium-sized thing. I generally find that all these conversations go pretty well. Everybody's pretty friendly, excited to hear about Wayfinding, so I'm not that nervous, but like I want this to work out because I know Alden really wants this to work out. So
right.
That part makes me nervous. I think we should go that way.
Okay, let's go that way.
If it's about Alden specifically, then it would be about the details. But in general, assuming Alden weren't in the picture, my interest would be getting a sort of a general letter of transfer agreement, because then it makes it easier for me to, like in my NWCCU application, I'm saying, okay, well I have these letters already in place, and that helps them to know that I've done some due diligence on my end of like, will other institutions be willing to take wayfinding students afterwards.
The other person I have to go figure out who it is now, is our person who directs prior learning credit.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And talk about options there.
Yeah.
You know, there's multiple hoops for the student to jump through.
Mm-hmm.
And if in a first step it would be worth you all understanding clearly what that process is.
Mm-hmm.
And then step two, would there be a special path through
Mm-hmm.
for your students, so as to speak?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we just finished up our official time at Evergreen State College. We're about to go on a hike to a beach along the Puget Sound and do a little bit of reflecting and sharing of what we've learned today. First question of reflection, general thoughts on the fit between Evergreen and Wayfinding.
Generally, as I thought it might be, it seems like it's probably pretty good. It seems to be a really good blend of a place that can be pretty self-directed if somebody wants to choose to take it that direction, but also has quite a bit of structure if somebody wants quite a bit of structure. The thing I was generally impressed by is that a lot of things that our students at Wayfinding are getting a start in right now, whether it's photography or video editing or a little bit of science exploration or sustainability or agriculture or whatever, that because they're a huge state college, they have a lot of resources with that. So you could take like our little media lab and like expand it 20 times and you have what they would have here. So it seems like it's a really well resourced place. So if a student knows why they want to come here and what they want to do with their experience here, I think it could be a pretty good fit.
Cool. Let's walk some and then we'll talk more.
Let's.
Reflection question number 2 for Michelle. Tell us a little bit about what you learned regarding the transfer of credit process and what's unique about Evergreen in that regards.
I was pleasantly surprised by the answer. It took us a little while in our conversation with the director of admissions to get to the answer. But once we got to the answer, I was pleasantly surprised that basically the answer is yes, no problem. They have a mechanism in place right now that could do that. The downside to that is that there's, it sounds like some paperwork and some bureaucratic hoop jumping that has to happen to get the existing process to work pretty seamlessly for wayfinding students. So basically we've set up a series of next conversations that are going to take place because he thinks that we do have a good alignment in what we're doing, and we can probably put a custom thing in place for wayfinding students, which could enable them, they transfer up to 90 quarter credits. You don't do that, which is what students will end up graduating with wayfinding from. So it looks like they actually could probably set up something where students could transfer in with somewhere between a year and 2 years worth of credit coming in. So that was pretty good.
Talk to that piece about why you shushed yourself kind of when you were talking about credits.
Yeah, in higher education there's a lot of bureaucratic paperwork, number counting, checkbox ticking sorts of stuff. And we've worked really hard at wayfinding to make sure that that's not part of the student's experience, that it is all handcrafted and customized and personalized for them. And so we know, like the staff and administration folks and their students' guides, that we all know on the back end how that all works. We keep track of that. But if a student wants to transfer to another institution, some of that's going to have to come up in conversation. And all the institutions that they would transfer to, that's how they deal in things, is how many credits they'll transfer. So it then becomes part of the conversation. And the conversation today at Evergreen was interesting because they're a non-traditional sort of authority bucking kind of system, but they are a state public college and they're dependent on the state for a significant portion of their funding. And so they have a lot of tension they talked about with how to balance that. And it turns out about half the students here come here because it's a state school, and they get low in-state tuition and they live nearby, and half the students come here because they're attracted to its non-traditionalness and the choose-your-own-major kind of elements that they have here. So it sounds like it's an interesting blend of student body, and that they have to be able to do both, which I thought was kind of, I'm sure there's a lot of tension there, and they've been around for 50 years or so, so they've been trying to work that out. Short pond.
Next to other people.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, yes.
So we made it here to the Puget Sound. A little bit of beach access connected. Still the property of Evergreen State College, right?
Yeah.
And I tried to throw this question to Michelle, but she said that I should try to answer it. And I guess the way I started the question is that it was interesting to walk around a quote unquote typical college, even though there are a lot of things that are unique about Evergreen. But having spent the last year and a half almost exclusively at Wayfinding and not really being around any other higher education setting, and then documenting what's going on at Wayfinding, it was very interesting to then step into a different type of college environment. And I feel like it gives new meaning to when we talk about wanting to revolutionize higher education. In some ways, I feel like I've said it enough, or I've expressed it through these videos, that it becomes a little bit cliche. But when you come to a place like this that's doing a lot of things right, it puts that more into a different perspective, which I'm not sure yet what I'm going to do with that perspective, but I feel like it was useful to be in this environment and to have this context again when returning to Wayfinding and see what's going on there at a much smaller, more personal scale. I don't know. Any thoughts on the generalized topic of bringing it back to the question of what's needed in higher education, and what is the alternative that Wayfinding is providing that doesn't exist?
So Evergreen's been around, they said, since the, late 60s, early 70s, depending on who you ask, apparently. And that's also true of several of the other places that I visited on the East Coast. They started right around that same time. So I feel like these institutions were the forward-thinking innovators of those days.
Yes.
And it's like Wayfinding is the next wave of that potentially, but one of the things I also take away from that is that most of the people that I've met and talked with at these places have the same deep core values that I and other Wayfinding founding team members have, and things like, if you're not careful over the years, the bureaucracy and the language, it creeps.
Yeah.
It creeps in, and I think we saw some of that today, and there's additional complications with it being a public institution. But even at the smaller private ones that I visited, similar creep happens with bureaucracies and forms and reserved parking places and the names of things all being sort of blah-ified,
Yeah, big dorm rooms that are A through F.
Yeah, right? Yeah, right? Something like that. And instead of having a lead matchmaker, everything is like their admissions department. And so I think part of it is on our part of like a remaining vigilant and making sure we stay true to the values, not only in the words that we use, but the way that we act as well. I guess we should
probably say bye to them.
And yeah, like we have to
and then we have to
walk
walk back through the woods
before it gets dark.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching this episode of This is Wayfinding. We'll see you next time.